And to give you a rounded perspective on this, let's now go across to Mr. Ashok Sachinhar, the former senior diplomat, who joins us at this afternoon broadcast to decode this very important visit. Good afternoon, sir. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi completes a power-packed 3Cs Cyprus, Canada and Croatia tour, strengthening not only bilateral ties, but putting forward India's strong stand against terrorism very loud and clear. To begin with, Croatia, which is a NATO member as well, shares rich cultural heritage with India, and also India signed several MOUs and collaboration in defence sector as well with Croatia. And not only this, Prime Minister also became the first ever Indian Prime Minister to visit Croatia since the year 1991. What message, according to you, it sends across to the European Union bloc especially?
Okay, thank you very much for having me on the show. Yes, it's been a very successful visit, this three-nation tour. As we know that the invitation for participation in G7, it came somewhat late, but then all these three-nation visit was put together. I think as far as the European Union is concerned, what you have mentioned, that India is very keen and very interested to have a broad-based, comprehensive strategic partnership with the European Union. We see that during this particular visit, of course, even in Alberta, Canada, Prime Minister Modi had a meeting with a large number of European leaders, whether it was with Mr. Macron, it's with the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, it's with the Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, and Keir Starmer of the UK. So these major countries, he was able to connect with them and to advance bilateral partnership with all of them. Here he has chosen these two countries, small countries, but very significant countries in terms of connectivity, in terms of the support that they have provided to India, Cyprus and Croatia. And if I could just add also that if you look at, this is the first visit outside the country by Prime Minister Modi after the Pahalgam terrorist attack and Operation Sindoor. Just before that, we had seen our External Affairs Minister. He went to Belgium, he interacted with EU leaders, he went to France, interacted with the national leadership there. And just before that, he had gone to Denmark, he had gone to Netherlands, and he had gone to Germany. The point I'm making in response to your question is that India is very focused on expanding its partnership. We have agreed that we will be able to sign the India-EU FTA by the end of this year. Your viewers and listeners would be aware that in February this year, we had the first ever visit by the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, along with her College of Commissioners. I say unprecedented because this sort of a visit has never taken place to any other country. So I think it reiterates, it demonstrates also the very strong and keen interest of Europe and European Union to also enhance its partnership with India. Tanvi.
Let's talk about Canada as well, sir, where we saw very flourishing multilateral meetings of Prime Minister Modi. PM not only did bilaterals, as you just mentioned, with participating nations, but also reiterated his stand on dialogue and diplomacy as well in the context of ongoing Iran, Israel and Russia-Ukraine conflicts. And it's not just a passing remark, but well heard by the stakeholders of all international forums, isn't it?
That's right. Meaning, of course, he reiterated it when he was speaking, when he was addressing the G7 plus outreach countries in Canada. But, even during his visits to Cyprus and to Croatia, he did mention that, the principled stand that India has taken, that this is not an era of war, and that all disputes should be resolved at the negotiating table through diplomacy and dialogue. The other point that he has been making consistently, you would recall, Tanvi, from the time that Prime Minister Modi met President Vladimir Putin of Russia in Samarkand in September of 22, that no resolution of any issue, any dispute can be found on the battlefield. So you have to be at the negotiating table. And this is exactly what he said in this context. And I think the other message that universally he gave in all his meetings was that terrorism is an action against humanity. It is not against any single country. Referring to Pahalgam, he said it was not an attack against India only. It was an attack against humanity, and the whole world needs to come together to fight the scourge of terrorism, because otherwise, if countries disregard it, then they will also suffer as a result of these terrorists whose influence would continue to grow if it is not checked in time.
Very rightly pointed out, sir, because when we talk about it, we saw how all the nations, they echoed India's stand against terrorism and its continuous fight against terrorism. Now let's talk about Cyprus as one of the major highlight as well, where Prime Minister Modi was bestowed with the highest honor. How do you see Prime Minister Cyprus visit, considering its importance on European Union map, especially knowing the fact that Cyprus will hold the European Union Council presidency in the beginning of 2026?
That's right. Cyprus is going to hold this presidency for 6 months from 1st January 2026. I think the relations between the two countries are very strong. They are very vibrant. They are very deep-rooted. And, this was the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister after 23 years, the last having been by Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee in 2002. And the warmth was evident when we saw that the president of Cyprus, President Christodoulidis, he came to the airport to receive Prime Minister. And I think the body language was very illustrative, was very demonstrative. They were holding hands and, as if they were two very close friends. So I think in terms of the personal rapport, it was there. This was also reflected in, as you mentioned, the highest civilian award being given to Prime Minister Modi by the Cypriot people and by the Cypriot president on this occasion for the immense contribution that Prime Minister Modi has made to the strengthening of bilateral relations. And that was evident that both the countries are going to work together. I think the problems that Cyprus faces with Turkey are similar to the problems that India faces with Pakistan. Cyprus has always been supportive of the Indian position, whether it is against terrorism, it's India's membership of the UN Security Council, India's membership of the Nuclear Suppliers Group, and on all accounts. And of course, India also has been very supportive, even during its independence struggle. It got its independence from the United Kingdom in 1960. India was very supportive of its independence. Cyprus was a founding member of the non-aligned movement. So both the countries have really worked together. There is great understanding between the two. India has been very supportive of the Cypriot position on the whole issue of the Turkish Cypriot issue. I think all your viewers and listeners would be aware that Turkey had invaded Cyprus in 1974, and it has hived off about 1/3, 35% of the Cypriot territory and has occupied it. No other country recognizes it as such except Turkey. And India stands by the Cypriot position to resolve it in tune with the resolution of the United Nations Security Council.
Now, overall, this strong European Union visit not only strengthens India's foundation in European Union bloc, but also helps in enriching international relations, as we see. But how is this a boost for India's vision of becoming a developed nation by the year 2047, sir?
Yes, I think that is, first we've been talking about the India-EU FTA, which we are hoping to sign by the end of this year. And of course, both Cyprus and Croatia are very important members, and also many countries that Prime Minister met in Canada, they are also important members. So whether it is in terms of the technological exchanges, in terms of enhancing trade and investment, because I think with both these countries, Cyprus and Cypriot, to which there were the bilateral visits, what stands out is the focus on the 4 T's. That is trade, that is technology, that is talent, and that is tourism. So tourism helps, as far as these countries are concerned, in enhancing and promoting people-to-people contact, but also business contact also. And I think during my own years, I have seen, and I think that continues to be true, that countries are not really aware of the huge strides that India has made as far as technology is concerned, as far as trade is concerned. And I think these exchanges in terms of tourism, that will help to take that also forward. Trade, of course, is a very important element. With Cyprus, we have just about 137 million trade last year. With Croatia, we had about 300 million. Of course, from Cyprus, we have, it's one of the 10th largest investors in India, with more than $14 billion of investment since 2000. So trade and investment are very important. There are areas for bilateral cooperation in climate, in pharmaceuticals, in climate change, combating climate change, renewable energies. Right. So I think all these ideas, all these issues were discussed in Cyprus. India and Cyprus signed 4 agreements on agriculture, on fisheries, on culture, on science and technology. So I think focus, Tanvi, is on technology, and how technology going forward can catapult the relationship of India with these countries, as also with the European Union, give it a quantum jump and take it to the next level.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's successful 3-nation visit.